new moon is in the sky, a 23-inch metal sphere placed in orbit by a Russian rocket. Miles up, the artificial moon is boosted to a speed counterbalancing the pull of gravity and released.
We are looking now at one of the scientific achievements of our times, the first space satellite.
Getting back to this track, is it possible that it is transmitting a code, not just a beep signal for radio listening?
Yes, it's quite possible that it's transmitting the code, but we don't realize what the code is.
Now, sir, what do you think about this achievement of the Russians?
I think it's a remarkable thing. My only regret is that we couldn't get there first.
What do you think?
Well, I think Russia's accomplishments are greater than ours, and I'm not too disturbed about it, but I feel that the United States will succeed eventually in putting a man into space.
Well, as usual, they're ahead of us, a little step ahead. But that doesn't mean much, actually. It means that they took the risk that we didn't dare take, probably, because it's too dangerous for a man.
You're not particularly worried about their getting there first?
You know, the world has always been on the edge of catastrophe since its existence.
Meantime, the Soviet Union was ready to launch its second punch in a row, Sputnik 2. Aboard this new satellite, Laika was to be the Earth's first traveler into space. Here is Laika in his capsule, which will be placed inside the satellite. There were instruments to test his reaction to cosmic rays, radiation, heat, cold, and weightlessness. In these exclusive Soviet films, Sputnik 2 is shown in its pre-launch preparation. The Russian satellite weighed 1,120 pounds, 10 times heavier than the first Sputnik. On November 3rd, 1957, commemorating the 40th anniversary of the Russian Revolution, the Earth's second artificial satellite went into orbit. The second Sputnik was not only a tremendous scientific achievement in itself, but in the information received on Laika's long flight into space, the Soviets gained a priceless advantage in any forthcoming race to put a man in space.
Explorer 6, the paddle wheel satellite, shown before launching. The vanes jutting from the 2-foot sphere contain tiny cells to convert solar energy into power for the Explorer's battery of radio equipment and instruments. Carried into orbit by an Air Force Thor-able rocket, the satellite will measure the Earth's radiation belts and magnetic field. And perhaps most impressive of all, will relay back crude pictures of the globe and its cloud cover from the vantage of outer space. Launching is flawless. Man's 14th space messenger to date goes into an elliptical path 150 miles from Earth at its closest, 26,000 miles out at its farthest point. The paddle wheel satellite will remain in this orbit at least a year, continually drawing electricity from the sun's light to power its unique eye in the sky, probing the mysteries of the cosmos.
Among the most massive launching pads at Cape Canaveral are those of the Atlas missiles, enormous looming structures over 150 feet high. Their concrete pedestals stand a good 2 stories. From one of these pads 18 months ago, the first Atlas blasted off to explode into fragments. Last week, another soared over its full intercontinental range. Now, the most far-reaching feat of all is in the offing. Fueling has gone without a hitch. Every component checks out flawlessly, and the 10-hour countdown goes into its crucial final moments without any substantial delay. The 85-foot missile goes aloft in a near-perfect takeoff. Fully loaded to a weight of 122 tons, it hurtles upwards before the enormous thrust of 2 rocket boosters and the main sustainer engine. Four and a half minutes of powered flight bring it to satellite velocity, 17,000 miles an hour. The missile's own guidance system steers it into orbit, the first time this has been done. With a weight of 8,800 pounds, the Atlas is by far the biggest satellite, more than double the mass of Russia's Sputnik 3. But impressive as is the feat of the Atlas itself and the awesome accuracy of its guidance system, all else is overshadowed by the amazing communication system it carried aloft. The Atlas can receive messages from Earth, record them, and rebroadcast them on a command signal from the ground. A revolutionary new method of space communications was pioneered and given overwhelming dramatic emphasis with the master stroke. The broadcast of President Eisenhower's voice from space. A message received and rebroadcast through all the world. Said the President, through the marvels of scientific advance, my voice is coming to you from a satellite circling in outer space. Through this unique means, I convey to you and to all mankind America's wish for peace on Earth and goodwill toward men everywhere. Here is how the President sounded in his broadcast from the Atlas.
This is the President of the United States speaking. Through the marvels of scientific advance, my voice is coming to you from a satellite circling in outer space. Through this unique means, I convey to you and to all mankind America's wish for peace on Earth and goodwill toward men.
I do not regard the first man in space as a sign of the weakening of the free world, but I do regard the total mobilization of men and things for the service of the communist bloc over the last years as a source of great danger to us. And I would say we're going to have to live with that danger and hazard through much of the rest of this century.
Could you give us some idea what it's like being in this spaceship, how much room you have in it?
В кабине космического корабля очень просторно, гораздо просторнее, чем находиться в кабине самолета.
Yes, it was quite roomy. In fact, it was far roomier than in the cabin of a jet plane.
While we're talking about the ship in flight, there's one small mystery which I think possibly you may be able to clear up for us, but perhaps not, but I'd like to try. On the day when you were making the flight, on the day when Moscow Radio was describing you making the flight, there appeared in our communist newspaper, the Daily Worker, the report that the flight had been made successfully and that the flyer had returned to the Earth. And that report was dated from Moscow the day before. I'm sorry to put this at such length, but this created the impression, of course, that another flight had taken place and you had flown second, and nobody has ever dispelled this yet. Will you do it now?
Могу совершенно компетентно вам заявить, что, очевидно, корреспонденту этой газеты было известно несколько больше, чем тем людям, которые занимаются в нашей стране непосредственно космическими полетами.
Now, I can assure you quite authoritatively that evidently the correspondent of that paper felt he was better informed than the actual people who are in charge of this work in the Soviet Union.
May I have a question?
Такого космического полета не было еще ни у нас в Советском Союзе, не делали такой космический полет и другие государства.
No previous flight of this kind had in fact taken place either in the Soviet Union or in any other country.
Space is open to us now, and our eagerness to share its meaning is not governed by the efforts of others. We go into space because whatever mankind must undertake, free men must fully share. I therefore ask the Congress, above and beyond the increases I have earlier requested for space activities, to provide the funds which are needed to meet the following national goals. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish.
But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too.